All right. First off top, let me just acknowledge the fact that slander means something false about a person. I know it's cool slang right now, but people be misusing it all the time. It gets clicks, but I just want to say that up top, that's not how you use slander. And I'm not about to really slander Korra because this is all facts. And so I know there's a lot of Korra hate out there, and it's okay to have a little more. So let's get this started, man. I've always felt this way about Korra, just over the years, and it's gotten no better every time I see it. So let me just start by saying, number one, for me, this is not about Korra being a woman. Like, I know for sure that there's people out there that are hiding behind the criticism of Korra just to drag a female character. And so some people legit love Korra and protect it, and some people just protect it because they don't like, what some people use it as in their propaganda. So I get that. I totally understand. This is not that. Second, this is not about her being the avatar. I see almost every video, every discussion I see about Korra is, hey, Korra's not a good avatar. Then they start talking about how bad the show was, or vice versa. This is strictly about her, or not about her. This is strictly about the show. This is not me trying to say, which avatar is which I think is insane. Because also I'm sticking to what was on the screen. I don't care about all the fan fiction and extended lore. I'm only going off what's on the screen. And so if you do that, it's crazy because we barely saw anything of Roku. I mean, we saw like kind of the major part. We didn't see Kyoshi. We didn't see none of these other ones. And then Aang, we only saw 1 year of him as the avatar. So if you don't count what happens in Korra, that's all we really know of Aang. So I think the avatar comparisons are silly. All right. With that being said, let's get into it. I think the reason Korra is so bad to me and to a lot of people is for three main reasons. Number one, the character itself is not likable. Number two, the storytelling just was not that good. And then number three, there were changes in the lore that some people didn't like. I think that's the three main pillars of why I hesitate to call it trash, because that seems a little too harsh, because the original creators did put something into it. There's some stuff to like, but it's not good. I don't know. It feels like it's worse than trash to me. It's worse to me to have some quality and be disappointed. There we go. It's very disappointing. And so I think, to me, in a lot of ways, it sucks more to be disappointed than be straight up bad. But I don't know, because as a big fan of the original series, I do feel like I don't like either of those choices. So I don't know. Either way. So number one, Korra herself. Korra is just, look, what they presented to us on the screen, I understood. Hey, we're going to the next avatar, and Aang was a little kid that had to speed run learning all these elements in one summer, to fight. He's a spiritual monk and all that. Korra is going to be older, still young, but an older avatar that already had the elements down except one from the beginning, and then struggles with the spiritual part. So in essence, on paper, you're like, okay, we got a new character, we got to do something different. We're not going to do a complete 180, but we're going to make their stories in very different hemispheres. And so while like her story isn't the exact opposite of Aang, is very different. So okay, I get that move. But then once we get down to it, Korra just makes just terrible decisions. She makes terrible decisions. And again, a lot of people will be like, oh my God, worst Avatar because she did this. Look, Aang spent almost pretty much the entire OG series figuring out what it means to be the Avatar. He had not been the Avatar like actively. And so, and again, that was 1 year of time. So I'm not going to deny Korra that journey of figuring out what it means to be the Avatar. She hasn't even been out into the real world yet. And so I take that off the table. I don't care if she was the Avatar, just a police officer, or any whatever. She is a random protagonist. So taking the Avatar title out, she still makes dumb decisions. And they are so frustrating because most of the time she's making decisions out of spite of somebody instead of making something or making a decision that's logical. And it's like, I just feel like almost every character that their primary personality trait is angst, it doesn't go over well. Like, she's just angsty the whole time. And again, well, not again, I didn't mention this, but for the first time I'll mention it. The writers they planned on one season. They didn't know they were gonna have more than one season. So the first season almost kind of has its own bubble effect, and I'll get to that later. So I don't want to harp too much on that because they tried to fit a lot in there. But it was mostly about her trying to really overcome her own ego and get out of her way. But then, even as we continue on, I mean, I think season 2, there's some of that. I think it was more the situation was challenging of how could she be the Avatar and neutral in a personal situation. And then later on, she gets broken down and the whole thing is about her trying to rebuild herself. So it wasn't the entire series, but it just felt like the through line for Korra was like, I'm trying to find myself and I'm reacting to everything in a very rebellious teenager way. And that just came off so annoying. But then even if, you didn't like her personality, they still could have her make decisions that made sense, or she didn't get in her way all the time or sabotage her own self. That would probably be more endearing, but she just never felt like that. I don't know what they really wanted you to feel for her in the first season, to be honest. Like I said, number 2, I felt more of that, like, man, this kind of sucks. She's in a tough space. Like, what is she supposed to do as the Avatar? And I guess number 1, you get a little bit of that because the what was his name? Unalaq, I think. He was pushing. Well, no, not Unalaq. That's the other one. What? I don't remember. But the one waterbender dude in Republic City, he was pushing her to publicly so he could get her to do what he wanted. And so she was in a tight spot, but she was just being so annoying. Every other time it was hard to feel bad for her. Season 2, I felt more bad. Then of course between 3 and 4, we really see her broken down, especially 4, and trying to rebuild. So everything was about feeling bad for her, which got progressively easier. But we started off in such a rough spot with season 1 that by the end of it, I didn't really feel bad. And then she makes dumb decisions along the way, like the whole spirit gates and everything. That lives in infamy right now. And then she lost the connection to the Avatar. That was just so, like, I wouldn't even say that was a decision. It was a result of her decisions. But yeah, man, just her as a person, like, she fumbled too much. I guess that's the best way to say it. She fumbled too much. Whether she's the Avatar or not, whether it was a decision or it was her having to fight for something, she fumbled too much. And I can't respect that, and I definitely didn't enjoy watching it. And I'm not even getting into her getting beat up, or at least not as the character. Anyway, the second pillar is the storytelling. Now, to circle back, Season 1 was supposed to be just season 1. I understand that. But the series does not have a good narrative flow. And so if after season 1 there was a drop off in terms of the stakes and intensity, I could understand that, because again, you give them a pass because they didn't know they was writing for multiple seasons. But that's not what they did. Season 2 upped the stakes, went way higher with the stakes and intensity, and then 3 came about crashing down, and then 4 came to like the lowest it could go. So it was so uneven, and it never felt like it fit together. Like it just didn't make sense to me. At least I wouldn't say make sense. It didn't feel natural. Like, we had this whole thing, Republic City, and again, season 1 is its own thing, and the Benders living together, blah blah blah. But then you go into season 2, now we're with the Water Tribes, and you mean to tell me you got a whole evil uncle, that level of evil, that was just happened to be there and nobody really knew? Like, what are we talking about? Like, and again, I know season 1 was supposed to be part of it, but no mention of him, no involvement with Amon. And it didn't make sense. And as many times as I watch it, I do not understand her uncle's goal. Like, kind of saying, first of all, another reason people hate the whole spirit world gates is because that's really unless I'm wrong or I missed something, the only real motive they gave for her uncle doing that was because he wanted to have the spirit in the regular world, like the physical world, have the gates open. And so for us to go through a whole entire season just for her at the end of the day to turn around and be like, okay, we'll keep the gates open, that just was, man, again, now that's her character as a decision, but that's also the writing as well. So, but then you go from that, then Zahir Nem, which I know people get real horny for season 3, but who are these? Like, what was Zahir doing exactly before he got caught? He didn't have no bending. And it just, again, felt kind of plopped out of nowhere. Like, to me, and to be honest, it doesn't even have to be like super complicated writing. If you're going to introduce something to the world, then that's new to the audience, don't make it new to the characters. That's what, because then it feels unnatural. Because then you get Korra and too many people like, who is this dude? Like, what? No one told me about this. Like, now, again, they chilling in jail. People think they got no reason to worry about them. But I don't like when I just got done with this. I watched Hunter x Hunter for my first anime. I'll probably be talking about that soon. And I just got done complaining about that because each arc, it feels like they introducing a bigger threat that nobody ever mentioned or talked about. Like, that just doesn't make sense. It's not good writing. It's not good storytelling. Again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's as simple as making it where Korra and most people know who these infamous like killers are. That is just that easy. So yeah, and because you don't really get that, benefit with Korra that you get with the OG. Because the OG, everything's new to Aang. He's been frozen for 100 years. Then on top of that, Katara and Sokka have never left their tribe. And also, there's no, like, what do you call it? There's no community for the Avatar. But in Korra, like, she's with Tenzin and a whole Airbender family who have been with Aang, who have been with Katara through all their adventures. They knew Sokka. You got Beifong, you got Toph, you got the White Lotus rebuilt in function for all those years. All these things. I just feel like you can't really get away with just plopping like, oh, it's some bad person like that everyone knew about, but now they're important. I didn't like that. And then season 4, it drops down to Kavira, who is really just trying to start a military coup and be a dictator. So the stakes were all over the place. Nothing felt like it flowed into each other. Even having Kuvira a little bit at the end of season 3 and then going into season 4, that didn't even feel natural. It just felt like, hey, let's take this random character and make them the big bad. So I feel like just every time I think about Korra, like for me, the first thing to come to mind isn't really I dislike Korra as an avatar or a character. First thing I always think of is like, man, that was just not good storytelling. And even if you want to say it was decent, you could at least agree it wasn't on the same caliber, wasn't the same level as the OG. Again, disappointed. Some people call it trash and all that, garbage water, but I could at least say it was very disappointing. And then the last pillar is the stuff with the lore. Now look, some of the stuff's gonna be a coin toss, but I there's most of it I didn't like. Like I was really sitting here thinking, just like, is there anything out of Korra that I would miss if it didn't exist? Like, because I was thinking like, man, it might have been better just not to have done this than to have this stain on the record, because it does directly impact the first one. Unlike a remake, a sequel, impacts the franchise. So I was thinking, and literally, there's probably one thing that I would say I would miss. I couldn't think of anything for the longest, but then I said Varric and Julie, I believe that's her name, his assistant. Hilarious, love them, big fans of them. But other than that, I wouldn't miss nothing from that was introduced in Korra. Nothing. And so for me, the changes with the lore were mostly misses. I did not like the decision to show us the first Avatar. Really didn't like that. Now, just because I don't like that decision doesn't mean you can't write something that is compelling and makes me appreciate the decision. That's not what happened. What they wrote to me was kind of cheeks. Like, I didn't like the Vatu, I didn't like the Rava, I didn't like none of that. And I like, they all lived. We heard about giant sea lion turtles. This one was in the finale swimming in like the ocean, the sea, whatever, and Aang was riding on his back like an island. How were they big enough to have a whole civilization? Like, what happened? Like, and some people, well, dinosaurs and the prehistoric lizards, yeah, that's cool and all, but going off what we saw, there was nothing from when the first Avatar became the Avatar to when he died. There was nothing that was said about changes to the giant sea lion turtles. So that just felt off and disconnected. And then, yeah, I just the story wasn't super compelling to me. It wasn't bad. It was just weak to me. Like, okay, he was, a bit of an Aladdin, and then he got thrown into the spirit world, had to learn to survive, and eventually became the bridge. I guess. Honestly, they could have stopped right there and been better off than that whole Rava and Vatu thing. But anyway, so didn't like that decision. Didn't like the execution of it either. And then there's just, there's a lot. Obviously, with our older OG characters, they fill in some stuff, and not everybody likes what happened. I didn't even think of this ever one time, but I saw somebody recently in the comments talking about that it was the most heinous decision to make Toph a cop who was a rebel. I don't agree with that, but again, there's a lot of people that don't like certain decisions they did with the lore. And when you fill it in, you already running a risk. I honestly, even if it was elite writing, all the lore stuff's gonna be 50-50 because different fans are gonna like different things. But I just, oh my god, Aang being a bad father, bro. Really? That's what he did. That's what y'all did. That's what y'all decided to go. Had a bad father, as if Katara would let that happen. But he was a bad father and favored over the one airbending son. Like, if you want to say he was obsessive or something, even then, I didn't like that. I didn't like how he tried to do my boy Aang. I didn't like how he tried to do my boy Aang on that. And yeah, just everything with the lore. The one thing actually I take back that I do really like was Commander Zhao being in the fog. Like, that was a nice little callback. But they did so much. Like, the recent time I seen it, and I watch it like through reactions. I ain't just sitting down and watching it. Recent time I seen it, I really had to take my hat off. Obviously, you could feel the original creators touch on it. A lot of Easter eggs, a lot of tips of the cap to the original series, a lot of connections. That was fun. It didn't feel great because I wished it was in a better series. And so, yeah, man, I ain't gonna touch on every single part of the lore, but that's always gonna be a bit of a controversy. Now, obviously, the biggest is her losing the Avatar cycle, and I low-key didn't really retain that going into this last watch through. And I'm like, yo, I thought that got fixed. I did not realize that we ended it with her really not reestablishing that connection. And so that's crazy. And a lot of this Korra hate's been re-sparked because they announced a new series and gave a bit of background, and they painted her to be the villain. Now, I think it might be a twist, but they're feeding into what the fans are saying. They know this. So while you got a loud group of Korra defenders, bro, I think the majority OG fans do not F with Korra like that. And I don't, like I said, I never put it in competition with her and Aang. Like, to me, that's silly. What's the point of comparing avatars? They are extensions that are of each other, but B, they're built off the last person. So of course, like, she's got all the knowledge, or had all the knowledge of Aang. And like, how they are avatars, again, we haven't seen much of anything. But even if we knew every person's exact history, every avatar is different. I think that's what makes it cool. Like, yeah, like, even when Aang talked to the avatars before he fought Ozai, and they all lean the same way, it was all for different reasons, different experiences. That's what makes the avatar cool. If every avatar was supposed to be the exact same, it's not a cool concept, or not as cool of a concept. So the idea that she did this and Aang would never, and I don't really like those arguments. Again, I don't think arguing about who she is as an avatar makes any sense. Again, because they're all connected, but then also on top of that, really, that just goes to the writing. So yeah, so the way they characterized her, man, the storytelling, like the overall narrative, and then the changes in lore, I think are the big main reasons people don't mess with Korra. And yeah, I'm one of them. I honestly think my dislike for it eased up a little bit over time. I tell you what, the first time I watched it, it was later. It was on Nickelodeon.com, and I don't know why. I don't know if it was doing bad or what. They said that the first season had numbers. I don't know, but I was watching it for free on Nickelodeon.com. First time I went through, I don't remember if it had to be season 2. Once I finished season 2, I fell off Korra for like a couple years. I was like, this some trash. I'm not watching this. Oh yeah, by the way, the season 2 finale, trash storytelling. Trash. Horrible. So I fell off for a few years. I finally get back around, finished it up, and then after that, I went over a decade not watching Korra. Like I said, "F this. This is a piece of dirt." But then I've seen it a few times in the last 2 3 years, and so it probably went from like a negative 100 to maybe a negative 10, but it's still a negative. It's just not good. It's not good. Anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about Korra, the Legend of Korra, and yeah, do you think she was a good character? Do you think she was a good avatar? Did you like the series? Share it around, get the conversation started, thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.